I welcome the tea time with Amie and Bev.
Good morning.
What's happening, sister?
Just doing a little bit of spring cleaning this morning. We've had extra dust.
In our area, we are actually like tying ourselves down to something, anchoring to something as we walk outside. It's incredible. Anyway, we don't have smog.
No. When I look at this, you look at this in a bigger picture, like the earth is really cleansing itself right now. It's like practically blowing people off the freaking planet.
Right?
Where we're at. Yeah, it's freaking
Some of them are
crazy.
like bad boogers, though. They won't.
That's true. They're kind of hanging around.
They're like, no.
How are you doing?
Oh, well, along those lines, I was listening
The
to
booger or the wind?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, whatever you want to talk about, don't matter. I've been listening to a series. It's called The Millionaire Within Her, and it's a 9-day thing, and every day is like 2 hours. And it's not just about money. It's been about all kinds of things. But the most common things that have been coming up, all women, is intuition, spiritual guidance, being in the moment. And these are millionaires. All of them, millionaires are talking, right? Feminine energy, everything we talk about every week. And one I listened to this morning, very interesting, because we've talked about how we're moving into the Aquarian age, and that's a time of shifting and people tapping in more into a spiritual connection, and that's growing, that's expanding, and that movement. And what this speaker talked about was that the Aquarian age, so when you think about intuition, it is the feminine energy. And in the Aquarian age, with the intuition and spirituality expanding, that we're moving more into feminine energy now. We've been in masculine energy for hundreds of years because we've been in survival mode. And now the feminine energy is rising. There are more women entrepreneurs, more women speaking up, more women taking that authority positions, right? The feminine energy is rising. And it's not to say that women rule and we're the best and we can do things better. It's bringing, some people would say balance, bringing a little more balance to the male and female energies, which it's time. And women perceive things differently, right? Masculine energy pushes through and dominates and proves to be the best. Feminine energy is like, we look at it, we assess it, we see how can more people benefit from the decisions that are to be made. It's just time. We're in that time. The Aquarian age has started, and we're in that time that feminine energy is rising. So, which means that also, so the one piece that really got my attention, and this is where the wind comes into play, is that the Aquarian age is the time of peace. And there can't be true peace until the chaos is looked at, or the chaos surfaces so it can be released or changed or shifted. And that's where we're at right now. We're just at the beginning of that Aquarian age. And so now shit's stirred up. It's like there's freaking chaos going everywhere. The energies are heightened. Comparable to 2020, the heightened energy is still there, if not getting even more intense, because our bodies are not meant to handle this type of information that's coming, like not the type of, but the amount of information we're taking in. Our bodies are not made to handle all of the information that's available to us and as fast as it's coming into us. It's like, so it's creating discord within ourselves, and then we're all emanating that energy out, and then we're all picking up on that energy, and it's just this continuum, right? So we're just like, so thank God for the wind. The wind's just like, get that shit out of here. So it's really a time that we maintain our own energy, that we're very aware of how we're feeling, what we're thinking, how we feel physically, emotionally, our spiritual connection. It's imperative that in those chaotic situations that you're witnessing on the news or in conversations or social media, that instead of getting wrapped up in the intense, stressful information, that you take a moment, take a breath, and just send out as much love as possible. Like, see everything clearing and cleansing itself, seeing it be resolved, seeing there be calmness. I mean, just using your own time and energy to visualize things being different. So yeah, I mean, if you want to start with all that.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to taking care of yourself, right? It's making sure you're drinking plenty of water. It's making sure that you're taking time for yourself. Whatever that looks like. Yoga is great. Meditation is great. If you can find a place that you can get outside, that you can stay at a good temperature or you feel good in, and, you know, get your feet in some dirt. There's a lot of things. It's being grounded. You know, you're talking about a lot of this stuff, and I think of the masculine and the feminine, which of course we know resides within everybody. It's within everybody, but the dominance has been a masculine energy. Even us feminine females have been more in a masculine energy, pushing, tomboys. Anything you can do, I can do. You know, I mean, all this whole matching of behavior, and it's a matter of, the big thing is a lot of the women are actually stepping into this, and like, it's okay for me to have this feminine side. But also on the other side of that, men are actually doing the same thing too. I'm noticing a big difference. It's kind of blows my mind, because there's been a few people that I might see them on Facebook, and then I see their posts and stuff, and we can kind of get a general idea of what they're posting and putting out, you know, where they're at, what they're thinking. And then I met one of these people recently, and it's like their whole conversation's changed. And it's like, people don't even understand that we're going through these huge changes, and they don't even recognize it. They probably, if they were to stop and look at themselves, they probably wouldn't even recognize themselves, because there's been such an evolution. And it's happening. Everyone thinks maybe nothing's happening. Oh my gosh, no. Everybody that I come in contact with, I'm noticing a huge change. And that goes for men and women, because there is more of a trusting of the intuition. And if you go back to just like you said, if we're going to talk about any of the stuff that's going on in the world right now, we can get pretty wrapped up in it. It can get pretty depressing. Really, it really can. If I could spend 5 minutes in that space and it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good. So to me, if it doesn't feel good, why would I punish myself and put myself in that space? I'm not saying that it's not happening, but at the same time, you got to trust your intuition. There's all, you know, the comments have always been, there's always three sides to a story, always.
Always.
And I would say that's exactly the same way. Everyone's got their freaking hidden agendas. Everybody's got money involved. And that puts a bad energy or a negative energy towards money, which isn't even factual. Money is just energy. It's just energy. So getting back to the whole staying in your intuition, how do things feel for you? Does that, like watching something and really asking yourself, how does that feel for you? Like reading a book, reading someone's post, and like, and if it's negative, like really stopping and feeling it, because it's all right to feel it if it's negative, but feel it. And then ask yourself, is that true? You're going to get the answers every single time. When you read something that feels so good and positive and it makes you feel great, you can still ask yourself the same questions. We forget, and we get so wrapped up in all this stuff and think that this is something so outside of us. But again, asking yourself, why is this showing up in my experience? Why am I seeing this right now? How am I separate from within myself? Is my masculine and feminine, are they in harmony with each other? Because as we've talked about, there's never really such a thing as balance when it comes to your masculine and feminine. Sometimes we're going to sit back in our intuition, which would be our feminine energy. We're going to get motivation. And now we just moved into our masculine energy. So always, if long, it's like an ebb and flow, right? It's back to the infinity symbol. It's just a constant evolution. We're constantly moving forward, even when we think we're not, unless we're holding on to dear life to something. But eventually, you're going to have to let go, because you're going to move forward whether you like it or not. And I laugh about that, but it's very true. It's very true for me. I'm seeing it with people, and it's just so much better, you know, even in this times right now, it's so much better to take that time. If we're talking Aquarian and this intuition and this evolution that we're going through, because it's happening. I mean, people can pretend like it's not happening, just like a lot of things, but it is happening, and it's a good thing. Or it can feel like a horrible thing. You can sit and fight it and ignore yourself and still keep putting everybody else above yourself, and still not taking care of the things that you need to take care of yourself and for yourself. Or you can get buried by it. Eventually, one way or the other, you're coming forward. You might be carrying a bag of shit with you, but you're still coming forward.
Yeah, I heard a thing or read a meme on social media. It said, even if you fall on your face, you're still moving forward. I'm like, I felt that way sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's okay.
Yeah. So I just want to hit on this. Not that I want to go into the politics or anything like that. I just want to hit on how energy works, because we've talked about it in every episode we've done. And you know, we've talked about how when you in your own space, so you're watching the news, the social media posts, the conversation, like when you're in that space of being upset, angry, frustrated, irritated, judgmental, critical, all the shame, guilt, all that stuff, and then you add the information, the outside information of the news and social media and conversations, and you pile that in, and now you're like this, we've talked about this, right? That festering volcano of emotion that's just, you don't know what to do with it. And so it's just like, all right. And your energy is contributing to the drug addictions, the murders, the rapes, the thievery, the war, like all that is in that type of energy that you're harboring within yourself. And when you're emanating that energy, it's fueling those lower vibrational experiences. So while you were talking, what came to my mind was when 2020 came around, and there was, I mean, just look at all the events that happened during that time, in that year, of all the chaos, all the property damage, all of it, just all of it. And how pissed people were. They lost their jobs. Now they're worried and concerned and depressed. And there was a heightened number of suicides because of all that. So when we're feeding that energy, now we have a war going on in countries. We have another country that is making moves for domination. And it's like those types of leaders in those positions are receiving that energy that we're putting out, and it's rising them up. Now, because of how fast information travels, like if this was, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, we wouldn't get the information as fast as what's happening over the oceans in other countries, right? It wouldn't come to us as fast. But in the meantime, over these decades of years, that more spiritual people have come up, more light workers are shining their light, more people are standing in the energy and vibration of love and joy, more people are nurturing themselves and treating each other better, living through kindness. More of that energy is being emanated. And so as that information comes from what's happening in other countries, as that information is coming in, the light workers are rising up, right? And we're speaking out more. We're like very persistent in our conversations. We're like, listen, you have to nurture yourself. You have to experience that calm and peacefulness within your body. So any of that negative emotion that you're having, that you're still hanging on to from past experiences, it's time to let that come to the surface and look at it, release it, and shed those layers so that you can experience less stress in your body and be more in peace and calmness and emanate that energy. Because just by doing that, you're affecting thousands of people just by you doing you. And so I just see this real big picture of all this energy happening and how it's intermingled, but how, because like I said, because of how fast the information is coming to us about what's going on, you know, we're linking arms and we're pulling people in and saying, okay, this is what we need. We got to focus on love. We have to focus on resolve. We have to focus on solution. We have to focus on calmness and peacefulness. We have to focus on humanity. And I just see that all evolving and how amazing it is, really.
Yeah. So we are a world. We are the world. We're a part of it. So that when you give yourself that energy, that's giving the energy of peace to everything else too. We are that world in an entirety. Honestly.
Oh yeah, we're like our own little universe.
Yeah.
And then we're all connected universe.
Yeah. And actually, if you think about the world is within all of us, people get so wrapped up and we all have, because this is what we've learned. This is our body. And we see this as such a solid, which it's not.
No.
And we're all energy. And if you forget about even, gosh, it's, how many times have I heard from so many different speakers and so many different psychics and stuff that God, when they leave the physical body, it's like, I was just in a play. It was a play. Yep. The thing is, if you get all wrapped up in all of that, then you get wrapped up in a play. But the whole bottom line is, let's make it fun. The fun thing of the whole situation and why we came here was to create. Everything that you see around you is contrast. It's not something that we have to go out and fix because it's not broken. We just, the goal is to create. And it's like, are you putting attention? It's just, we've talked about this a million times. Where are you putting your attention on all the things that you talked about before that we could be, that doesn't feel good, or we could talk about all the things that do feel good. And we have examples of it on a daily basis. That's the funny thing. When you go to the grocery store, I freaking meet people all the time that are looking up and smiling and appreciating that you looked up and saw them and smiled back at them. Those are huge, huge. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Because this is part of the world, but that's where you put your attention at. We've got opportunities all day long. I could watch and look and see a dog running wild on the side of the road and think, oh God, that poor dog doesn't have a home, or, oh, that little lucky mother. He's out there running and have a good time. He doesn't have anyone telling him what to do. So it's a matter of perspective. It's just however you want to look at things. Like, we take things way too seriously. And I heard something recently, if we would just drop the body and realize how much energy we are now, how can you play with that? Like, what can you create? Like, we can create everything. It's just a matter of asking yourself questions. Okay, well, if I wanted to create that, how do I match up with that energy, or what does that look like? It's the same thing. We've talked about being the painter of your life. What do you want your scene to look like? What do you want your picture to look like? If you're writing a story, you already wrote those chapters. Why are you reliving it? Why are you reading that chapter over again? You're done with that chapter. And all it is just stepping forward. That's it. And like you said, if you fall on your face,
still moving forward.
You're still moving forward. And guess what? You pick yourself back up again and you keep moving forward, because it's your energy. Like, you really don't really fall on your face. Like, it's not even this stuff's not even real. We've been so groomed for so many years to be so separate from ourselves, but that's not an excuse anymore. That's a bullshit excuse. The separation is within self. The separation is when you go outside and you pretend to be something that you're not. The separation is, there's a million things. There's so many things that could pop into my head right now, but I don't want to go down that path. That's not where my energy wants to go. Or we can find this unity within ourselves. Oh, well, that's weird.
The separation is saying, you did this to me.
Yeah. Or take a look at that, because that's huge. Because but is it true? Is there really separation? Like, we can step out of our alignment with our source, our God, or whatever you want to call it. We can step out of that alignment when we do it probably on a regular basis every day. I'm combining words.
Yeah, we're just making shorter sentences.
That's right. But we can step into that path all the time, or we acknowledge it all the time, or we can be like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Because it doesn't. It certainly does not.
When it, go back to talking about that, we are our own world. I was looking up the name of the lady who I was listening to. Her name's Jennifer McLean. She did a process in this segment where she said, just sit and imagine you are in the center of your universe without the physical body. It's like you were saying a while ago. If you drop the idea of the physical body and you sit in that space of your universe, your world, your spirit, your soul, and be in that space as a creator, let me just say, you're back into your feminine energy. That's feminine energy. Being creative is in the feminine energy. And where we're in that space, that's the space to create from. You don't create from a space of anger or fear, or judgment or guilt or shame. You create from a space of the spirit. And the spirit to me is love. So if you don't like the word spirit, just be in the space of love. And maybe what's happening in your world in your experience at the moment is slightly chaotic. Then you take your mind to a time where you experienced love. Because the mind doesn't know. The body, whatever you think, the body follows. The body doesn't know that experience of love isn't actually happening in the moment, because in your reality, there's a little bit of chaos going on. But when you're thinking about that memory of experiencing love, the body's emotion, the body's experience follows that. It doesn't know the difference. So you get into that space of love, into that space of the center of your spirit, your soul, your world, your universe. And from there is where you are your creator. That's where you're visualizing those things that you desire, that you want, that you dream of, your goals. Writing that marketing piece is from the center of that space. And I just loved the way she described it. It was just wonderful.
And it's to remember, we're not our bodies. We are not our bodies.
No.
I mean, we're here for a blip. It may seem like we're here for 100 years, a couple hundred years, whatever. We're here for a blip. It's nothing. It's nothing, because gosh, you think about that. It's another position, really. It's just another position. And we can change like a job position or anything like that. It's just remembering that. And it's like, what was coming to me when you were talking is like, if we feel resistance in the world, what are you resisting?
That's right.
Because that resistance is within self, like just to pin it down. It's so simple. And I don't always think it's so simple, but when I can step back and look at it, it is so simple.
It is.
And if we remember,
all the teachers say it is so simple, but what do? I know I've done it most of my life. If it's simple, then there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Right. It needs to be hard. Why? Because we've been told everything that you want that's good, you have to work hard for. And that's a mindset shift that we have to mind shit. So what I wanted to say is mind shit, because it's not a true statement.
It's not.
It's so simple.
It is. Everything. And then we can create anything we want. That's the funny thing. Gosh, we can create anything we want. I can't even, I'm just imagining, if you want to look younger, you can look younger. It's just a matter of finding things that look young, what your ideal image is of looking younger, or seeing yourself in looking at your older pictures and thinking, God, why didn't I appreciate myself back then? I looked good. Right. It's taking that time but that right there, you're creating from that space. We're doing it all the time. That's the crazy thing. But I'm having an awareness of all that. It's like this morning, it's like my mind, I will tell you, for me, I'm noticing the energies are a little bit funky. They're a little bit up there right now. And it's like stuff would pop into my mind. It's like, yeah, but I don't have to think that way. Because I could really care less about that, whatever that is. That has nothing to do with me. And it's like, oh, good win. You just got to win. So again, going into something like that, I say again, I don't know if we've talked about it in this conversation, it's celebrating all those moments. It's celebrating each, because if we're in the now, we're aware of all those moments, like all of them. God, we talked before about, when you see memes about it, if you're anxious, you're into the future. If you're depressed, you're thinking about the past. And it's like, so go back to simple, right? Gosh, how am I feeling today? Oh, if I'm feeling depressed, oh, what am I thinking about? I'm stuck in the past.
Which
So
asshole am I thinking about today?
Yeah, but it's true. Or even if you're beating yourself up, and gosh, I saw something recently. If you're like beating yourself up for all the experiences that you had before, or shaming all those experiences, then you can't entirely love yourself, because those experiences made you who you are today, which is huge. We all want to hate something or put blame on something or whatever, and it's like, no, gosh, because really, when you think about it, once you when you evolve through so many things, you look back and it's like, and then you don't spend too much time looking back. It's like, wow, I've grown, instead of, oh my gosh, like, look how horrible I was then. I was such a horrible person, but it's not true. It's not even a true story.
Right.
There's evolution. It's happening with us all the time. All the time.
And as each of us evolve, the planet evolves.
It does. The world has its chakras. The world has its aura. I forget how it was described. It's one of Dolores's books I've been reading, Dolores Cannon, but she was talking about, like, there was, I don't know if it was the aura that was around the planet or some string or some energy. I don't remember what it was, which I believe there is energy around the planet. And like you were saying before, we could be feeding whatever you want to feed. It's your fire. Like, what do you want to put in that fire?
Right.
And fire meaning passion. And to me, and if you're being destructive, then it's just a fire that can consume everything, but it doesn't have to. And how strong is a person that's more in a higher vibration? Stronger than, I can't quantify how much, but it's much bigger than one person or thousands of people that are in a negative space. And we help lift them up. Why? How? Because we're focusing on ourselves, because we're doing that internal work. We're looking at the things that need to be looked at. We're consciously putting ourselves in the now, right now, all day long.
And it's a choice. And it's a choice to feel good or feel crappy. It's a choice. And I do this with myself. I'm like, all right, I'm having a moment. I don't feel good. I'm frustrated about something, or I'm irritated about something, or somebody pissed me off, which they can't actually piss me off. I have to allow it. But anyway, I'm feeling these emotions. Does this feel good? I mean, that's as easy. I mean, that's so simple to say and go, does this feel good? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Well, what do I want to, what can I do right now to shift the way I'm feeling? And it could be a multitude of things. It could be go on a vacation, take a drive, go to the gym, listen to some music, do some journaling, meditate, right? They're all different extremes. Meditation can take 2 minutes, go on a vacation, 10 days. I mean, what time frame do you have? A song's what, 3 minutes average. And it can shift you that fast, just so fast. And it's so simple. The thing is people want to argue for their limitations. Well, I deserve to be mad at them. Absolutely. You are right. You are absolutely right. You have that right, and I can't take that away from you. However, what energy do you want to feed? I just come back to, what energy do I want to feed? I am taking responsibility of how I show up in my life, which affects the world. It affects humanity. How do I want to show up? And now it's not even a fact about this person pissed me off or I'm irritated. It's about, how do I want to show up? So I just want to touch on this, that we have somehow they prove this. I don't know how you prove this, but anyway, we have like 50 to 80,000 thoughts a day, every single day. And for a majority of the people on the planet, 80% of those thoughts are negative. 80% of the thoughts are negative. So if you have 50 to 80,000 thoughts and 80% of that's negative, how much negativity? I mean, look at the amount of negative energy you're feeding into your home, the people around you in your home, your work environment, when you go to the grocery store, driving down the street, when you take a walk, that energy is around you. And you're just like, here you go. Here's all my negative shit. Even though you are not outwardly expressing it. It is a vibration that we send out. Now, what if, I'm not going to say that we could be 100% positive 100% of the time. However, what if 80% of those thoughts were positive or uplifting or kind or loving toward yourself and your perception? What if? How much different would everything shift? How much different would it be in your environment? What would your experience, what could your experiences be like if you flip the numbers to 80% positive? Sounds good to me, because that would be a much better space to be in than arguing for, I have a right to be pissed off right now. Okay, that's your choice.
It all starts with each individual, each person. That's why it's important for yourself, because it feels better.
Yeah.
Really. That's really the big part. And we were guided all day long through our emotions. And I guess the good thing is we're not all in that 80% at the same time, all the time. Because we have many that really can maintain a higher vibration, and those higher vibrations can make a big difference.
So one thing you can do, so I mean, I've had all like this information coming to me for like a week. So something you can do, so this is where you like micromanage your thoughts. This is where you get really tuned into recognizing, what thoughts am I having? And so when that negative thought pops in, immediately you need to have 3 to 5 positive thoughts. And those 3 to 5 positive thoughts could be, I love these pink flowers that are right here. I love the color of those. I love that my little bamboo plant's growing. And I love that I can see the sky from where I'm sitting. I mean, it can be so simple. Like we just come back to it could be so simple to shift that so quickly.
It's pretty effortless.
Oh yeah.
Saying good morning to people, good morning to everything around you. If you stop and think about it, I don't know if we talked about this or not, it's something I had read recently, but it's like everyone thinks that something is a higher vibration or a lower vibration, right? As far as, I'm not talking about energy, as far as our thoughts and stuff go, but I mean like my desk and my chair and it doesn't mean that it's less than because it's not moving through with the body, because it's still energy. It's still alive. It may not look alive to you, but it's all alive. And it's recognizing that we're never alone. So it's always, good morning, chair. Thank you, chair. Good morning, truck. Thank you. Thank you for being such a great truck, for getting me around everywhere. It's all the time for all these things. You want to raise your vibration? That's easy. All day. So you got a million things sitting around you right now in your room. I do. And even if you're sitting in a room with just walls and a carpet, you got walls and a carpet and hopefully some windows and maybe a light.
Right.
So there's so much to appreciate. Yeah, it does take you out of takes you out of the space real quick of, I guess, lower thought vibrations.
And so I just want to be clear, not that I agree with the fuel prices, but even standing at the gas pump, people, it's just so negative about how high the fuel prices are right now. And I get that. To shift that though is to stand there and say, thank you for this fuel. Thank you for the fact that I can even purchase this fuel right now, and that I have the money coming in, that my job or my business is, or however you get your money, no judgment, that you're receiving the energy, the money energy to give, to receive fuel. And that fuel is still allowing you to go places, to get you to work, to get you to the grocery store, to get you to see your mom, or your friends, go have lunch with your friend. Like, be in appreciation, because as long as we're feeding the energy of how horrible the president is, the fuel prices are so high, blah, 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 that's the energy we're feeding. We're not focusing on a solution. We're focusing on the problem and the two different energies. A huge solution, which is, I, as an individual, cannot go to Washington, D.C. and have words and anybody listen to me about fuel prices. Probably not going to happen. But what I can do is sit and be in gratitude for the fact that I can still purchase the fuel to provide for me. And at the same time, I can go into my feminine energy. I can go into my creative space and visualize that those prices are coming down. And the more people that are practicing, focusing on the goals, the dreams, the desires from a space of love, from a space of creativity, the more things shift in that direction.
One thing I would notice is we can't, I don't know where I heard it before or how it came to me, but it's like, if we want something, like if I wanted to go see a show and I wanted the tickets to be a certain price, and I'm hoping the price is going to come down. So I hear what you're saying, but on the other side of that, it's knowing that I always have plenty. If I have so much money coming in or so much abundance coming in, it doesn't matter how much that gas is. It really doesn't, because that's just like, it balances out. It does, it finds its balance. If you've got more coming in, you look at it like, oh, it's just a couple of cents more. A couple of cents more, really. And I understand, believe me, because I drive a truck and I've seen the price going in there, and I'm like, oh, we've gotten some big numbers today. But then I like to look at the numbers. So it's like, it's just, I get to see different numbers right now instead of something that was similar all the time. It's just however we want to look at it, but always knowing that we're going to be taken care of, always knowing that we have abundance coming in. The only one that's restricting that abundance from coming in is us. Mm-hmm. Each person on an individual basis. It doesn't matter. I mean, I used to, when I was married before, I would be like, oh, you can't be thinking like that because you're doing this. And it's like, that you can still evolve yourself if you're not getting wrapped up in someone else's energy and thinking that that's, a limitation, because it's not. Again, I put limitations on myself at that time because I thought, well, if this is person saying, oh God, all this negative, oh God, this negative conversation that's going on right now. And now it's like, okay. So I listened to what the person's saying. And before, I used to correct people all the time too. Like, you realize what you're bringing to yourself, right? You know what you're creating. You want to create that. And it's just, I just kind of sit back and let them. Now, every once in a while, I'll say something to my kids or something like, hey, are you sure that's what you want? Oh yeah, you're right.
It's like,
and it's not a matter of being right. It's not a matter of being right. It's just a matter of, does that feel good? Do you want to stay in that space? Which is what this whole conversation is. It's all about the energy, which it always is, because that's all there really is. Simply, it's always about energy, because everything is energy.
Yep. And so going back to my experience, or my explanation of visualization, is you can do what I suggested as far as visualizing while you're standing there, that the price of fuel is coming down, and do what Bev is saying. Focus so you can visualize that more abundance, prosperity is flowing to you, that your bank account balances are increasing, and money comes to you easily. So you can do both.
Absolutely. Whatever resonates.
Do it.
I said, whatever resonates.
Yeah, for sure. And you can do, it's being in that creative space and being very hyper aware. what is it you're thinking about? And because what we think about, you bring about. And where are you how are you contributing your energy out into the world?
Because every time you're thinking and when you're moving around the day, you're contributing. You are every
yeah.
moment of every day.
And
I
it
would say
was,
even when you're sleeping.
yeah, it was interesting listening to Jennifer McLean too, because she brought that into, this is the Millionaire Within Her is about, about women in business and how they got there. And she said, even when she creates her marketing emails or marketing posts, she says, I don't do it from my headspace. I don't do it from that thinking brain and having to do. And she goes, every time, anytime I have something to create or make a decision about, I go into my inner world. I go into that inner space and sit with it and allow the information to come to me. And then that's what flows out. And it's great that she said that, because yesterday, most of the day I was writing emails, scheduling emails. That takes a lot of creativity. And I just sat with it and I'm like, okay, what's this email going to say? And I do it, schedule it. Okay, what's this email going to say? It's just, that's where I was yesterday. And then I hear her talking about it. And it's similar to what I was doing.
Nice.
Just allowing it to come through me.
Good confirmation.
Absolutely. I love those confirmations. So I want to share a story with you. It just happened. It was great. It's about possibilities. It's about connection. It's about divine timing. It's about how we co-create with the universe. It was wonderful. So we have a neighbor next to us. In 2 years, I've seen her twice. Like her physical body twice. And I've seen her only a few times pulling in and out of her garage in her vehicle. Don't ever see her out in the yard. Don't ever see her, come. It was just like, and I hadn't seen her in a very long time. So this last weekend, they are having septic issues, and they had a plumber here. And so the daughter and the son-in-law were here. And so the three of them are outside. And here's where, you're following the divine guidance that's given to you and listen to those subtle messages. Okay. It's very subtle. And you know what I mean? Like it's just like this little tiny whisper that says, go get the mail.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Okay, I guess I need to go get the mail. So, I go out, it's our box across the street. I walk out there. And as I'm walking back, the plumber guy, he's like, hey, ma'am, can I ask you a question? I'm like, absolutely. What can I do for you? And so we're talking. And then I turn to the son-in-law and I'm like, is anybody living here? He's like, yeah, my mother-in-law lives there. I'm like, okay, so we settle all that. I'm like, we just never see her and we watch out for the neighbors. And I just want to know if anybody's living there still. So then the daughter comes over and I said, you know what, let me give you my card. And that way, if you ever need us to check on her, because she's older, I said, if you ever need us to check on her, or, you need some help or something, just here's our number. So I gave him the card. So that all disperses, right? The next morning, there's a tap, tap, tap on our door. It's the neighbor lady. And she comes over and she's talking. She's like, I'm so sorry about my septic and it stinks. Well, the wind's blowing like 30-mile winds in a different direction. We don't smell anything, but she was very concerned about it. And she wanted to come apologize and all that. And I said, you know what? I said, let me give you my card with our name and numbers. And that way, if you ever need anything, call us, right? Because I know she lives by herself and all that. So I hand her my card and she looks at it. She's like, now my business number is on one side and I hand wrote my number and my husband's number and our names on the back with our address. And she's looking at the card. She's like, "You're an angel card reader?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "And I do spiritual advisory. I'm a coach." And so we're chatting, and she's like, "Oh," through our conversation, she's like, "Oh, well, maybe I'll call you here soon and have you do a reading for me." Okay. Like 2 hours later, my phone rings. "Can you come over and do a reading for me and my daughter?" Right. So then I go over there, and now we're sitting there and we're talking, do the reading, and we're talking. And then as I'm leaving, she talks to me and she tells me how she's a children's book author, a writer. And she has these 4 books, so 4 series, this book of 4 books, and she wants to get it published, and she needs a artist for the pictures. And I was like telling her a little bit about my story of being an author, a new author, and then I have this new, this compilation book coming out next month. And so the lady that I got connected with last year, who has her own publishing company, every year she does this 5-day writing challenge, which is coming up.
Okay.
And so that sparked my brain to say, I can connect you with a lady who could probably provide all of what you need. Had she not had problems with her septic, we probably wouldn't have been having this conversation at this time. It might have been another 2 years later. Right? Over a septic issue.
Which really isn't the issue.
You have to be open.
Yeah, because it brought people together.
Yeah.
There's always a reason.
Oh my gosh. So it's divine timing, it's possibilities, it's we always, but we have such a fear of the unknown. But to be real honest, the whole future is unknown. All of it's unknown. Your next moment is unknown.
Yeah.
So it's living in the possibilities of the unknown. And that's where, we would come back into our own inner world, and in being in that creativity in that feminine energy, that when we visualize something, we usually only see it happening in one way. But if we're open to the unknown, if we're open to the possibilities, that can come to fruition in a million different ways, and probably 100,000 times better than we even imagined it. And that's why it's so important to be in that loving space when we're in our creativity.
I agree. It's funny you talk about listening to that voice. I had a client that showed up. It was not her appointment time. She shows up for an appointment. I'm like, oh God. I'm thinking, first of all, my first thought is, what did I do? Right? So that's huge all by itself, because it's like, first of all, reminding myself I don't do something wrong all the time. Things happen for a reason. So go back to your conversations with septic tank. It happens for a reason. Right. So she shows up and I said, I don't think I've got you scheduled today. I said, maybe there was an error or something like that. I'm not really sure. I said, but if you want to wait, I'll see if my next client doesn't show up, and then I can go ahead and see you today. Because then I look at the calendar and she's actually due the following Friday, not that Friday, at the same time that she thought
my hair appointment.
Oh, that's a funny too. But so she's like, okay, I'm gonna wait. And I said, and I already knew that my next client was gonna show up, but I thought, well, just in case, because I had talked to his wife the day before and he was definitely coming in. So I'm sitting there, and then I'm like, oh, here he comes. And she walks out and she's like, oh my God. She knew the person. They haven't seen each other since one of them had to move from where she was at. So it's like, if she didn't stick around, like, it was divine.
Right.
And then the other person's like, the gentleman that was in there, he's like, it was crazy how I met this person. I never would have had any conversation with her, but she was always like coming up, hey, how's it, like, pop up over the neighbor wall. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah,
how are things doing? And they became such great friends that the kids would come over to her house and have dinner with them, and with her and her husband and everything like that. Then they'd make cookies and they bring it over to the kids and stuff. And then the kids and everybody would make cookies and bring it over to the neighbors. So they got really close, but they hadn't seen each other since. So it's just those little encounters, and it's
Right.
such to be appreciated because those are little things that matter. We put such things on like experiences that are so huge, like stepping on stage or like that. Wow, I can't wait till I can do this. It's like, but what about all the small stuff? That was so cool. She didn't listen to that intuition to guide her there. And then she sent me a message a little bit later. She says, I see what I did. Because we had rescheduled the appointment because she was going to be out of town and then ended up not being out of town. So it's just funny how things always, everything always works out. It really
It
does. And
really
sometimes
does.
when it does, when it seems like there is such a problem, like it's so horrible and stuff like that, that spurs you in other directions. And then it brings other people together. And then you have this conversation and who knows where it's going to go from there. But she's probably sitting there thinking, man, I really want to put this book out, right? These books. And I just don't know how to do it. And then someone shows up. Now, like we say with everything, there's an opportunity. That
Right.
person can choose to take that and go do something with it, or they can just forget about it and stuff it under, put it in a file and get to it later and then not get to it.
Right.
But that's how the universe works for us. It's always guiding, always. And it's up to each individual to listen to those messages. We get them all day long. And like you said, it's so quiet. It's so subtle. And I've caught myself in, like, when we talk about the awareness, I've caught myself receiving messages and then like talking myself out of it, like right
Yep.
away. And
Yep.
maybe not necessarily talking it out like, oh, did that really happen? But like, no, I don't feel like doing that right now. No, do it right now.
No,
That's
you
right
gotta
there
go
in your
do
mind.
it.
Yeah.
No.
And then, and when you start doing that, like I've had days where I've listened to myself pretty well and done those things. And man, what amazing days. Like they are just, it's like the flow. Everything works out so perfectly. Like we've talked about before, having a huge list of things to do, maybe not for that day, but maybe for the month or whatever. And it's like you all of a sudden you get through so many of these things on the list, like boom, boom, boom. And it was no big deal. It was so easy. It was
Yeah.
effortless because you were listening.
And it almost seems like time stands still. That's what I'm experiencing right now, is it just
Yes.
have all this stuff to do. And I'm not watching the clock. I'm just, going through the list, getting things done. And I look up and it's only been like an hour.
Yeah.
Like, how can that be?
This time
I
doesn't
did
matter.
so much and it's only been an hour.
Yeah. That's the difference when you're in the flow. That is the
Right.
complete difference.
Right.
So I mean, that's awesome. And that's the thing. It's to get it. And I'm saying that out loud for myself because man, those are my best days. So it's to take the time right now. And it's sometimes when you're like pushing really hard, like, well, I don't know what to do. Well, you just sit there until all of a sudden you get an inkling to do something. That's all. It's so subtle. And then you just do it the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And it's like, oh my God, like all the stuff I got done. I mean, I've been up since early, and before we even started, I'd already dusted and vacuumed my bedroom and my bathroom, cleaned, got it all cleaned up, and I got into my office and got it vacuumed, almost all dusted and cleaning stuff up because it feels good. I'm noticing there's so much dust around right now. So it's taking the time when the energies get like they are right now. For me, it's like, okay, well, the things that I have control over are these things. This is in my immediate space. And we've talked about feng shui before, and not everyone believes in that stuff. But if you lay out like the pattern of your home with these places and you like look at it, like my office is my relationship corner. My bathroom, my bathtub is in the money area. So it's like if there's dust around and stuff like that, that's dust. If I've got dust in my relationship, that means there's like stagnant energy. That means there's not a flow. You can believe it or not believe it, right?
Right.
And then going that whole route, I can tell you, I've really touched base with this company and I really like it. It's called the Human Garage. And they really work on fascial moves. And it's stuff that's so simple. You can find them on YouTube. They're on Facebook. They have their own application app that you can go look at. But it's like, we're all made up of energy and we all have this fascia inside of our body. And then we're mostly made up of water and silica and a few other things, which has also put me into a place where people probably need to hear this, do some research on your silica. Horsehair is a very great source of getting silica, but it's like a big portion of what our body's made up. Water is the most, but you got silica in there too. And a lot of people are depleted on that due to, environmental stuff, certain products and stuff like that. Staying hydrated and having water. You want to have a better intuition, stronger connections. Get your water intake taken care of. At the same time, you're helping to ground yourself. You're helping You're paying attention to yourself, like all these things that are happening. But this human garage, they'll have you do just these moves, 15 minutes that you can do 15 minutes a day, which helps reset your nervous system for, I think it's 21 days or 28 days. I think it was 21 days, but anyways, you'd have to go look it up. So that gives you a little bit of like, maybe I should go check it out. But you go check it out, and if you can find the 15 minutes on Human Garage, on any other things that they're doing for the fascial treatments, they'll have you hugging yourself in a position, turning the upper body in a position, having your legs crossed while you're standing, turning your head the opposite direction and breathing. So huge. And you do this every day for 21 to 28 days. And it's like you reset that nervous system. You train your body out of that fight or flight all the time that almost everybody's in. You know, I'm getting better and better and better about that, but I'll notice when I'm laying, if I'm even in one of those positions, I'll notice I have a lot of tightness on my right side, like in through my lung area and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on, but this is helping me to release it. And it's so interesting. They even have these fascial moves to do on the face, and it's like almost doing this. It just really changes the whole look of your face, the heaviness. So it's like, I put that out there because I feel like it's valuable information, and it's something so simple, and they're not going out and fixing people because they realize you can't fix somebody else.
Right.
And it's totally up to that person. If you, just like you're giving that information to that person about the books, it's totally up to each individual what they're going to follow through on. What are they going to do? It's your life. Like, this is your part of the place. Like, you want to be happy. You want to put all your energy into the government and all that stuff, or you want to be like, no, because that stuff really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's
Right.
been given too much power. What matters is us. We matter.
Right.
And we have to matter to ourselves if we want ourselves to matter to other people, because because otherwise the universe is showing you, well, you don't matter because you don't think that you matter to yourself. You don't love yourself, so we're not going to give you any more love. You can't handle it. You wouldn't know what to do with it.
We can only receive as much as where we're at with ourselves.
Yeah.
So there you have it. The words of wisdom from Amie and Bev.
That's right.
Stay tuned for the next episode.
Yeah. Experiences are fun. They're meant to be shared.
For sure. So thank you so much for being with us. You could be doing anything else with your life right now, and you're choosing to watch us or listen to us. So thank you. Be sure to check us out. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Spreaker. You can also reach us through email, amieandbev@gmail.com. So good.
So fun.
All right, my friends, thanks for hanging out with us. Tea Time with Amie and Bev. We'll see you next week.
Bye.